Hello, everyone. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Wednesday. It's the Wednesday right before the holidays, and I couldn't be more excited to be joined by Reggie Brown. Reggie is someone that I actually met through this wild, medium of social media, and he's an Emmy Award winner writer. He's also an actor, and he is a comedian that impersonates President Barack Obama. But he's going to tell us more about who he is. He has been running a few really exciting campaigns also for the community with Outsmart Racism, and I hope that you can tell us more. So welcome to a conversation with Aura Vasquez. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's so good to be here with you today. Let's jump right in and get going.
Yeah, totally, totally. So it's the holidays, and there's so much going on. We had a wild year with the pandemic, with COVID-19. We saw friends sick. We saw people, die. How have you been handling, this pandemic?
I've been into a lot of Stoic teachings lately, and it teaches you that you can't control anything outside of your reaction to anything. So I can't control what the government's doing. I can't control the pandemic. I can only control my actions. So that's helped me to stay sane. And I haven't professionally worked at a live event since February 15th of this year. I flew to St. Thomas to do a charity event to rebuild one of the high schools that was destroyed during one of the last hurricanes, and came back, I think, that weekend, and then everything started locking down. So my whole meetings and conventions industry, which was about 90% of my income, completely fell off. So just trying to find out different ways to keep my creativity going and still not only help myself to sustain and get through this, but also help the community and bring awareness to causes that are part of this new reawakening and rebirth of our society and our culture in the United States right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I can totally relate is like my work has also been greatly impacted by the pandemic, and millions of people in the United States have been. And you as an artist, I totally feel it. Like, I mean, there's no venues, you know, and and there's so many people across the board really struggling with what's going on right now. How are you feeling about the response, or the latest around the stimulus package? Do you think that this is something that is going to support you, or people
No,
like me? I have my own opinions, but what's your opinion about it?
no, I mean, I haven't really delved too deep into it to know exactly what everything is, but we all know how these plans work. It's 5,000 something hundreds of pages, and the $600 stimulus is just a little piece of the puzzle that's thrown in there. And a lot of times when they do have these big bills, you know, they have so many other things that are completely unrelated thrown in there, and all these
Yeah.
other spending. And the reports I've been seeing are all the aid we're giving to other countries, and for our military and things and defense funds, that I think a lot of that should be reallocated at this time to keep it here where it matters most to us and help families. It kills me to see. I have a restaurant background. Before I started doing all the Obama stuff and corporate speaking, I was in restaurants for 14 years, and it kills me
Hmm.
to see these amazing families. And if you know the stories behind these establishments, I mean, these people, hospitality isn't for everyone. It's to people that have that in them, that welcome you into a place. They feed you, they make you laugh, they make you feel comfortable. And that part of our society is starting to wilt away. And a lot of these places really need the support. A lot of my favorite places I've been trying to, still pay and go to, they're saying they're at under 10% of their normal function, and nothing can survive that way. So I think the government's responsibility is to do a better job to take care of the small businesses and the people that need it most. And that's about the best we can
I
do.
know, and I also feel that small businesses are the soul of our like communities. These are the people that we go and get our dry cleaners done, and that maybe sell our, like our favorite tacos. And around the corner from me, I have amazing places like Bloom Cafe and CJ's. For those of you that live in the city, you probably know these places are amazing. and I see how hard it is for them to survive. So, it's not only regular everyday people, working class people that are struggling, but also the small businesses that really make our community amazing. And similarly to you, I also, when I was in college, I was a waitress and a bartender, so I can totally relate about. I mean, that's how I pay for college,
Yeah.
so I can relate, and I can only imagine now people trying to survive, in this, in specifically in this area.
Yeah, it's really rough, and I do think that it is the responsibility of our representatives to understand that, And if you worked in hospitality, not only is it nice to get your paycheck, but it also pays in so many ways. You get social skills, you know how to work with people, you understand the way that society works, and every day is a different day, different customers, people coming in and out, and you're actually at the ground level understanding how to relate to other people. And I think they're under so much scrutiny, our congressmen and women and senators, that now's the time for them to say, listen, we hear you, we understand you, we're going to fix this, instead of them just saying, here's your $600, we're throwing this in the bill. We all know here in LA that does not go far. That's a quarter of my rent, and
I mean,
it's just,
it doesn't help the cause. I don't think it helps, but I mean, and again, 8 months later, $600, it really is a shame.
yeah,
And something that we don't often think about is, we blame elected officials and we hope that they do the right thing and they go out there to Washington D.C., to City Hall, to the Capitol to fight for us. But in a lot of ways, we don't know how these people get elected. We vote for folks. We vote. I want to also hear more about your impersonation of Obama and how you kind of ended up doing that. But people sometimes don't think about all of the elements that have to take place in order for someone to get elected.
yeah.
And
And
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say that, I was part of the Sherman Oaks Greenery and Beautification Committee, and I joined because I'm always hands-on. I believe in, everyone has to do their part to take care of the environment, so we can
Yeah.
not only sustain but repair damage that has been done and everything. So I joined. I sat in on a couple of meetings, and it was like it was so hard to get the simplest things done because you can't just say we're going to do this and go out and do it. You have to get it checked by this organization. Then I had to go
Yeah.
through grants. All I wanted to do initially was to clean up the on and off ramps here in Sherman Oaks because they were just looked like mini landfills. And I said, when people come to our town, this is the first and last impression that they have. Coming in
Yeah.
and getting off is just mini landfills. I said, I want to do this. I want to clean up. I can do it myself, but if you have some budget, I would like to, have you provide the bags, gloves, whatever I need to get it done, and I don't mind doing it. And okay, we can do this, but then it's got to go to Caltrans, and they probably won't let you on the on ramp because then it has to go to this and that. I was just like, all I want to do is clean the garbage. Let me clean it. So there were all these hiccups. I called, the councilman's office, whatever. And in the end, I just went renegade style. I still do it. And I just go
You just
around.
still did it.
Yeah, I still do it. And I go around, I like trim around if there's stop signs or street signs covered by tree branches or, bushes, I trim it so people can see where they're going. And, families don't have to go into the street. Like I saw a woman pushing a baby and she went in the street because the bushes were so far and overgrown. It would have taken forever to get someone to do it. So I just keep trimmers behind my car seat. I pull over, do it, or I take my skateboard around the neighborhood and trim. And it's just my part of doing what I know I can do, but I know that it's so hard to get things done politically because you have to go through so many hoops to get the simplest things done. And that's one question I have for you is I'm not 100% sure what the position you're running for, the responsibilities of a delegate. So maybe you can tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this process of running for delegates is very new to me also, and as someone that is very politically involved, I can only imagine people that are not really paying attention a lot to politics, or that thinks that politics are bad or dirty. I can only imagine what people go through, because until the other day, I only heard about delegates from like the DNC and the conventions, and that they didn't have enough delegates, and the delegates didn't, and the super delegates. But I had no idea how you run for delegate until I found out that according to your assembly district, or whatever your assembly district is, every 2 years, anyone, any Democrat in the community can run to be a delegate. Um, they wanted to make this process, I guess, grassroots. So this was the idea from the Democrats. But there is a couple of things in there that are not very grassrootsy, in my opinion. So the fact that all Democrats that want to vote for other delegates need to re-register to vote. If you are registered to vote and if you just voted in November, you have to do it all over again to vote for example, me or anyone in your district that is running for delegate. So that makes it even more, I want to say niche. It's like insiders, and delegates have such a big responsibility because we're the ones that endorse candidates. So if you're pissed off with your elected official, with your city council member, if you're pissed off at our city, if you're pissed off at your state, legislator, if you're fed up with your congress member, if you don't even know who your congress member is, let me tell you that the delegates are the ones that are voting in the party to make sure that they get endorsed. And with the endorsement comes resources, phone calls, people, t-shirts, money, all those things. So it gets really hard for a grassroots candidate to win unless you really challenge the establishment. And this is how their establishments begin. This is like the entry level to this kind of democratic machine. I think I definitely heard this before. And again, as someone that ran for city council in March and had no idea about this process, I felt compelled to run because it's so important. I mean, endorsing candidates, moving legislation. The Democratic Party in California is the largest in the country. 1 of every 5 Democrats live in California.
Oh, wow. So how long are the terms of delegate?
So terms of 2 years, every 2 years you have to run. But this process reminds me a little bit about, I never ran for like beauty queen or anything like that in high school. But I remember first doing it, and this process kind of reminds me of that because it's not very transparent. It's not like a lot of people talk about it, out there. It's not like the Democratic Party sending everybody a saying, "Hey, you need to register if you want to vote for delegates." It's kind of like
it fell under the radar because I don't usually, during election season, your mailbox is stuffed full of all the different flyers and propaganda and stuff, and I haven't gotten anything for this election. And honestly, if it wasn't for you and your post, I wouldn't even have known that this election was coming up. So me being from Sherman Oaks, would I be able to vote for you in the Mid-City district where you're at, or how does that work?
No. So you vote for delegates in your district. So I don't know what your assembly district is, and I don't know if your assembly district is. And I don't know watching the stream. If you know what your assembly district is, post it on the comments. So let's see who's where. There's a lot of people running all over the city right now for delegates that are wonderful. But the idea is that the Democratic Party is the party of people. It's the Democratic Party. So I don't know why they don't make this process more accessible for people. So that's definitely something I want to do when I become a delegate. You can also push for legislation that supports the that the party supports. So, for example, a Green New Deal, or or defunding the police, or more investments for schools, or more affordable housing. Those resolutions can be passed by the party. Or we just went through elections and we voted for Measure J, which invests more in communities of color so that we don't over invest on jails and such. So things like that the Democratic Party can do. But But if you have the same people over and over running and over like winning, so then there is no space for new blood, for new leadership, for new ideas to come into the party.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting. I just learned so much. I had no idea. I think that I am in the, group of people that there's a lot of people like me that had no idea that this is even going on. So I'm glad we opened up the conversation because people need to know. It's just like the election that's going to happen again in 2 years, where the voter turnout always falls off after, the big election for president. No one really turns up 2 years later to vote for representatives and things. It's crazy.
I know, totally. And I wanted to ask about your comedy and your impersonation of Obama, and how did that came about?
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Chicago, and back in, I think when I was 21 years old, my brother came home and he's just said, "Oh, you look like this guy who plays basketball at my gym. His name's Barack Obama." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then later on that week, this woman came into the restaurant I was working at, and she's like, "Oh, you look like my professor. His name's Barack Obama. You should Google him." And that's when I first saw what he looked like, and I could kind of see it, but not really. And more and more over the course of his campaign, as his star was starting to rise, people would think that I was him. They'd want to take pictures, and it was so overwhelmingly positive. And I was still working in restaurants at the time, and I was also writing for NBCChicago.com as part of the street team. And we won our Emmy in September of 2008 for Outstanding Achievement in New Media Interactivity. And then he won, and I thought it was such a unique opportunity because I knew someone who said the George W. Bush impersonator, Steve Bridges, made money, traveled the world, had an amazing 2 terms, and I figured why not? So I moved from Chicago to LA, and I started focusing on the corporate speaking world, and I had a great career for the past 10 years, performing in 23 countries and, Fortune 100 companies, hanging out with millionaires, billionaires, movies, TV, commercials. It was crazy. It changed my life in so many ways, but I definitely think that while I was fortunate and took advantage of such a unique opportunity, I think that international travel is one of the most important things that everyone should be able to do. Like Jewish Americans have their birthright trip where they can go back and see, Israel and, have that whole experience. And like as a late teenager, and that's mind expanding for them. They see where their family came from, they see the different cultures, they have different foods, all this stuff. And I always said, if everyone had a birthright trip or something, to just go out and see the way that the world is outside of your town, outside of your city and the country, the world would be a different place. You would understand the plight of an immigrant and not being able to speak the language and trying to have a good time or order a meal. Everything becomes an adventure when you're like, you can't read the menu, you're pointing, you're trying to figure things out, and going around, you don't know what street's what. And it's just the great equalizer. So I always have been extremely grateful that outside of being raised in a diverse family, for one, to have had the opportunity to travel the world and witness and see. That's why I started Outsmart Racism, because there's such a similarity that runs through every culture and religion and basic humanity. And there's no reason that we need to keep segregating and saying us and them. We're all the same. We're just different cultures, different places. We're all trying to do the same thing, provide for our families, live a decent life. And it kills me to see that something that started out being taught to people in the United States with slaves, there were always, African Americans were always thought of as less, and Native Americans were thought of as less. And it was actually taught, if you look into some of the teachings that, that I've dug up, there were little kids wearing KKK full robes and, going to segregated schools, drinking out of, white fountains, black fountains, all that stuff. And they were taught that they were less than them, and it's complete nonsense. So I don't think that anyone's taught the opposite and said, listen, this is wrong. I don't know how it's escaped the hands of time and is still here. I found racism in my stepdaughter's yearbook. Someone drew swastikas and wrote the N-word all in there a couple of years ago. And I was like, this is Sherman Oaks, California. There's so many different races. It's a melting pot. how are these kids, how is this happening here? And that's when I had the idea that maybe, you learn it from your family, you learn it from people that you admire, you hear your grandpa say something, you hear your dad say it, and it kind of just hardwires in. So I wanted to focus on kids around that age group to kind of take my Obama, because they've seen me on Nickelodeon, Disney, all the viral videos I've done, go and talk to them live, tell them my story, and my personal story touches audiences around the world when I do tell them and share it with them. So I felt like I could make that connection and just say, listen, this is a new world we're in, and there's no room for that anymore.
Yeah. And that's so important, that type of work, because I'm as an Afro Latina from Colombia, like, I mean, we have our own fair share of in, incidents where you see other people judging you because of the way that you look,
Of course.
or where they think you're from. I often get mistaken if I don't open my mouth. If they don't hear my accent, I often get mistaken by being maybe half black, half white, which confuses people a lot. You
Yeah.
know, and then they can never understand that there is other black people in other countries. That was something that it was very bizarre to me too.
Yeah. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My mom's Irish and Polish. My dad's African and part Native American. And for me in our neighborhood, it was such a unique experience growing up because there was no one like us, and my older brother's skin tone's a little bit darker than mine. And, my mom's walking around, you know, fair skinned white lady, blue eyes, pushing my brother in a stroller than me. And we always got the looks. I remember people saying things when I was younger. I didn't know what it meant, but, um, you know, I thought that growing up that I was so different and I was so unique. And then I go out and I see so much more of the world, like Brazil, like Colombia, places you go where that people have been mixing for so long, but it just took so long to get to the south side of Chicago, and it was still new there. It's just crazy. And when I was in Spain last year, you see Chinese, African, every shade, every person speaking Spanish. And it was just such a beautiful thing. And it's like, duh, people do that here. But for me, I've never been in a place that wasn't primarily Latino, Latina with a Spanish speaking culture. But Spain, even for me, traveling the world, like blew my mind last year seeing it.
Totally. And there's so many places that you go to and you look like them.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to do with you. Like when I went to Egypt, for example, there were so many people that I mean, so many people that spoke to me in Arabic because they thought that I was from there.
Yeah.
And the few people that spoke English would say to me, "How come your parents didn't teach you Arabic?" And I'm like, "Because I'm not from here."
Yeah. It's a good reason. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see, like when you visit other places and when you go to other places, how racism or how even diversity,
Yeah.
how
And it all just starts from misunderstanding and a lack of knowing. If you don't understand or speak someone's language, of course you can, project onto them and think you know about them, or based on the way they dress or whatever. And someone might sit there and look at some kid with his pants sagging, not wearing a belt and just the way he walks and, whatever, and look at him like he's a thug. Meanwhile, the guy wearing the suit and is in charge of their finances is dipping in the real stuff, and it's like all based on, I did my TEDx talk based on perception and image. And we are so visual as humans. When we see something, we analyze and we feel like we know it immediately. And I came out as Obama in my TEDx talk to prove that point and say, people, when they see me in full makeup, their mind, body, soul, everything tells them this is Obama. People grab their phones, they hand me their kids. Like there's an immediate trust and immediate, love and acceptance in a lot of, outside of a few people. But, and I say, look at that. That is the lesson I'm trying to tell you. I'm not Obama, but you saw it. Your body reacted. Everything told you that I was something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And we do it all day, every day. And even me, I work on myself. The same things kind of piss me off, but I get better. I read the books. I've been doing a lot of breath work lately and just like, you never know what kind of day the other person had, and whatever. If someone cut me off, I got pissed and my friend was driving in the car with me. He's like, "Oh, that was actually a good move. I would have done that." And I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, maybe I would have done it too. But when someone does it to you, you get angry. So it just takes a little time and just a thought that can change your life. Like our perception is our reality. And if you
Yeah.
want to think of something negatively, you're going to think of it negatively. If you want to think of it positively, we have the ability to create our own canvas and the way that we see the world. And that's why it's so important to embed in people, the fact that we are equal. We don't all have the same talents. We don't all have the same work ethics. And I don't believe that we should all be able to live in a mansion or do whatever if you're not willing to put the work in, to get to that point. There's going to be productive people and lazy people in every single society, but there are still simple things that everyone does deserve, like education, healthcare, and things that everybody needs: clean water, resources. And that's something I believe that everyone on the planet. And when I have traveled and I see, we're sending, SpaceX up into the whatever they shoot off the rocket, and I have the new Oculus Swift 2, whatever, and then there's still towns where people don't have electricity or they don't have running water. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How's it even possible?
Yeah. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, global, of course, where all over the world there has been adjustments to our regular everyday life. One of the things in the United States, and at least in Colombia, where I'm from, that is happening is that kids have to attend distance learning. They're not going to school because of of COVID-19. And this is when you really see the technology divide, for example.
Yeah.
This is when you see no different than in Colombia, where I was raised, where if it rains, the internet goes off, and the internet is not the most reliable. No different than in South LA.
Yeah.
I founded a mutual called Ready to Help, and we are a group that is super involved with the community, neighbors, friends that supported me in my campaign, and other people that kind of came on board. And I see some of them in the stream. So big shout out to the Ready to Help folks. And for the past few months, we have been working on the technology divide. One, collecting computers that people are not using anymore, refurbishing them, and donating them to students that need them. And second, advocating for free broadband, Wi-Fi in Los Angeles, because there's a lot of our kids of African American and Latinx that are unable to attend distance schools because they don't have internet and they don't have a computer.
Terrible.
It's crazy. And recently I was having a conversation with a friend about the technology divide in the United States and the technology divide in Colombia, which is a developing country, a lot more poor, very different, with very different needs. And I was amazed to see that it's no different.
Yeah.
That kids that don't have enough, don't have enough, they're not attending school, but they don't have the funds to go to school. And it's amazing to me that we're in 2020 and we're having this conversation.
Yeah, I was in India, spoke at a conference out there a couple of years ago, and when we were driving through towns, I literally left the building. I had a meeting with an Indian billionaire, and as I left the building, on the street, which was all dirt, there were cows, chickens, and little kids naked. I mean, just straight up, not even money enough to have clothes. And these kids were probably anywhere from like 2 to, I would say, 8 and 10. Some of them had little scrappy things on. But it was crazy, the contrast of leaving that building to what I saw on the streets. But they were still running around, biggest smiles on their faces. To them, they don't even know what a computer is. They don't know what they're missing out on.
At all.
They're just enjoying their life and what little material possessions they had. But I was like, it was such a beautiful teaching moment for me, because you see people with everything and they're trying to, have all the new clothes. They got the car and everything, and they're so miserable because they just keep wanting more and more and more and be, Mr. I got this, this, and that. And meanwhile, there's kids covered in dirt, butt naked, just living their best life in the middle of India, sweating, like doing their thing, that have no idea these material possessions that are going to be put on them, later on in life and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I So back to the election, quick. I just wanted to ask you. A lot of my friends' families, like my Mexican friends, I have a friend from he's actually Colombian Mexican. A lot of their families tend to go more conservative than liberal, which to me, I always thought I'm like, you would think every minority, every immigrant would come right on over to the Democratic side. But are you finding that? I mean, is that true in your understanding of the community of Latino community?
Yeah, I mean, the Latina community, especially the older folks, can be very conservative because of religion. You know,
Yeah,
Latinos, Latinas,
Latinx
um, tend to be Catholic,
Catholic
and that has its own thing, which I always think is kind of interesting because if you watch any novelas or any shows in Latin America, everybody's butt sticking out, and they have like all the very tight clothing and the cleavage and the hair and the wild makeup. And I'm always kind of amazed to see how they can be so conservative in a lot of ways, but yet have this perception of how women should be, or what they
yeah,
look like, or what power is, money.
yeah,
It's kind of interesting, but yeah, I definitely see that in LA we're a little different. I feel like the Latino community in LA is a lot more progressive and a lot more willing to do things differently. However, Latinos don't vote at the same rate than other people vote.
mm,
That's a huge problem because
yeah,
even though the majority of the population in California and in LA is Latino or Latinx, they don't vote at the same rate. It's really problematic in that way to find representation. And a lot of them are Democrats, but they tend to vote quite conservative, and
yeah,
I really don't know any of the people that voted for me for city council. I don't know any of them that have expressed even any interest on voting for delegate, because they just don't know what it is,
yeah,
and they don't know how effective them. They don't know how important it is. And again, this is like the most grassroots, like the most point entry way that you can have to influence Democratic Party. And like I said, and the Democratic Party endorses candidates and the money in politics. So imagine if we could have a party where we see all those things extrapolate, like taking out. So I'm a big environmentalist.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I
in
love
much
that.
of my work. 2 days ago, I saw my first campaign actually in LA with the Sierra Club was to retire the largest coal plant on the west that was in the Navajo in the Navajo Reservation, and it was owned by the Department of Water and Power in Los Angeles. So my whole campaign was around, can we invest in renewable energy, and close these dirty plants, and invest in something that is better for our future. And just 2 days ago, the demolition started. So it brought little tears in my eyes, because in 2013, 2011, in 2011 and 2010, when I was running that campaign, people thought I was crazy, and I was the only woman of color really working on environmental issues. Now it's like a lot more popular, and I know that you're also a Sierra Club member.
I am.
But yeah, this is something very unorthodox. For the past 10 years, I have been, really, really invested on making sure that LA gets to 100% renewable energy. I was also a commissioner for the Department of Water and Power, and as a renter, for me, it was very important to make sure that we had a program that can provide solar for renters like myself and for family people. I mean, we need everyone. We need every rooftop in Los Angeles to have solar. We need people, much more robust public transit, and we also need electrical vehicles that pollute less our air, because they are our families. And in LA, we have the worst air pollution in the country. For decades, we had that. So it's important that we get involved. And if you are watching these, please go to the link in my bio and check where you live. And if you live in Assembly District number 50, which is Richard Bloom, let me know, and I'll hold your hand and I'll show you how to register to vote. You get an absentee ballot that is paid for, and send it back. It's such a hassle that they make you do that, but that's something that we can change in the future, and hopefully it will be different in the future.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I think that I stand for everything that you do, and if you need any help, just let me know. But I'm right there with you, sister. Everything that you've said, I've said in one way or another, and we need to be the leading example out here. And what better way to do it than to show the rest of the world that it can happen than in one of the biggest economies, in the world, definitely in the country out here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything that we do, kind of the world follows. So we need more progressive people. We need more grassroots voices in the party so that we can have a much more democratic party. We need a party that represents people like us, and has our back. And with that, we need candidates that represent us. So this is kind of how this is the point entry, basically. So I appreciate so much your support, and I appreciate you having this conversation with me. Before we go, I just want to ask you, and I ask this question every time before our stream ends, but share a little fun fact about you that maybe your followers or people that know you, maybe you don't get to share a whole lot, but what would be a fun fact?
Oh, geez. Well, something happened in my throat where I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to whistle with my mouth closed, which is the weirdest thing. Like, this used to slide to the side, and I used to be able to make this crazy high-pitched sound like a dolphin squeal, which, before, I can't do that anymore. I try all the time, but basically, I don't know. The Obama thing is the one thing I do that literally no one else in the world can do the way that I can, thankfully. And people just, they think I'm him when I'm in character. That is one of the things that I can offer that I don't think anyone else in the world can.
It really is so much fun, and I hope that when the time comes, you get to do it again live. Are you doing any live streams as impersonator?
Yeah, not live streams. I'm doing Zooms, and I'm on Cameo, so I've been doing that. That's been keeping me afloat through the through the pandemic when I can't do my live events. But yeah, I mean, I just do it for fun. I like to make people happy and laugh and alleviate their stress. And but other than that, you can find me trimming trees around LA in my free time, cooking in my kitchen, or just trying to enjoy life as best as I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And how do we find more information about your Outsmart Racism campaign?
Yeah, you can just go to outsmartracism.com. We have a website up. We're still developing that as developments come in. We're about to incorporate and become 501c3, and we also have an Instagram page. So I'll need to get your t-shirt size, get you one of these tees, and yeah, we've been making great advancements the past couple months, and 2021 is going to be good for us. So I'm really excited about that.
And I just, for those that are watching, I just posted the link of the Outsmart Racism.com on the comments. So please be in the lookout. And then, when the moment comes, just let us know when you're live so we can come see you.
Will do. I would love that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And have an awesome holiday.
Thank you. You too. Keep up the good work, and best of luck in the election.
Of course. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that was Reggie, you all. And if you are still here, please don't forget to register to vote for delegate at grassroots.com/vote. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. If you don't live in the district, but you have friends in the district, please send them my way. To change everything, we need everyone. And I am so grateful that you all tuned in today. Have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy yourself, enjoy your families. Please leave all this, whatever it is behind, and have a great time and enjoy the people that you love. We had a really rough year, and this is a time to really show up and love those that are around us. Have an amazing time, and we talk very soon. Bye bye, everyone.